Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. It's we're learning. Should have to do some English immediately. We're going to start Lamed Tes, Lamed Beis, right in the middle of the page. Talking about cutting the hair. And Nazir is supposed to let his hair grow for 30 days, not supposed to shave it. And at the end, he's supposed to shave it off. Well, let's say the Mishnah says, Nazir Shigilach. Bein bitar, bein bezog, sif sif kol shavas chayav. A Nazir that shaves his head in the middle of the 30 days when he wasn't supposed to. Whether he uses a razor, whether he uses the scissors, sif sif, I think we said was plucks, pulls out the hair. Even a small amount is going to be chayav. According to our Mishnah, any sort of removal of the hair, any form of removal of the hair would be a prohibition that would incur lashes. Tana Rabbanan, Brisa says like this. It says for 30 days you should not have a razor go on his head. Tar, quotes the pasuk. Brisa quotes the pasuk tar, a razor. In liela tar, I only would know that there's a prohibition if he uses a razor. Let's say he uses a haircut machine or something else. Talash, if he pulls the hair out with his hand. Miret, or he uses, what's it called, the cream that they would use to, there's a cream. What is there?
Debilatory cream.
Debilatory. Thank you, Dr. Stein. Oh, it's like Kleenex. Debilatory. Or if he uses the cream, or sif, or that's also with the hair, he pulls out. What's the difference, talash and sif? If he pulls out, both of them are plucking. Any comment on that? What's the difference if it's talash or sif? Both of them is with the hand.
One's passive, one's active, maybe.
I'm not sure.
One thing I can think of is like the cream helps.
Some explain that it tore out means you cut the hair near its root, but didn't uproot it. Uprooted means he yanked it out from its roots. Pulled out.
I'm not sure if I'm going to accept that shot for a different reason. Sif is only to break it off. Talash sounds like he's pulling it out, but okay, whatever it is, it's two ways of, or now it's three ways, including the cream, of getting the hair off without using a razor. So even a small amount, minayin, how do you know that that's also going to be chayav? Yeah, so Talmud Laimar Kadosh Yeh Gadol Peres Haresh, we quote a pasuk that says that holy is the hair, is the growth of the wild hair. It means that it's not allowed to be cut in any way. Now, the pasuk is actually an asay, a positive command. You should leave it. It is holy. It doesn't say do not cut it. But what we're getting here is that from the Brisa, we're saying that if you use another form of removing of the hair, so there's going to be a positive command. It's violating a positive command, not a negative command. It doesn't say do not, but it's violating a positive, which sounds like you won't get malchus. Positive, you don't get malchus for violating a positive command. But a razor would be the negative command, right? You shall not use a razor on his head. And it also says it should be holy. So it would be both. Okay, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yonasan, Omer tar, ainli alatar. Rabbi Yonasan takes it literal. It says a razor. Meiret talash sif kol shu is pater. He doesn't even say that there's a positive violation. It says it, right? Now it looks like we have three opinions. Looks like we have our Mishnah, which says that there's actually Malkus. And then you have Rabbi Yoshi's opinion that there's a positive prohibition. Then you have Rabbi Yonason. This is but now Tosfos, other commentaries try to reconcile the Mishnah with the other opinions, and they say that our Mishnah is talking about where you took it out from the roots, and it's considered ke'entar. It's similar to the razor because you took it out from the roots, and they're arguing only if it's not from the roots. Right? That you didn't take it all everything off. You left a little stubble. That's what they're discussing. But it does. But whichever way you're going to learn this, these are the we have different opinions here on if it's specifically a razor or the other ones.
Use a razor, you're not really taking it out from the root. It's just like biting.
You're not taking it out from the roots, but you're taking it out at the point of the roots. You're not taking the root out, but you're cutting it at the root.
On the other example, if you're taking it out from the root,
You're picking it out. Yeah.
you're picking it out, or maybe
The cream, it can't be. Yeah, it goes into the roots. I think it just burns whatever is on the surface.
I think it removes it from that's the point of the cream. I guess like it opens up the pores, and then when you rub it off, like it all comes off. But I've heard that the cream makes the person stay without hair longer. I think it removes it. It does, but it just takes a lot longer than the shave.
There's something about shaving that makes it grow thicker, but I don't know if that's no.
I've heard that also.
Okay.
Maybe only group of men in America.
That's a Bubba mindset.
These questions.
Tell me again, Dr. Stein.
That's a Bubba mindset.
What is?
Shaving makes it
Bubba
grow
mindset?
thicker.
Oh, okay. Okay. Accepted. Yeah. He said it's above my mindset to say that the shaving makes it grow quicker, which is very possible. People make assumptions that it wasn't growing thicker before, and now he's much older. Right? There's other factors there. Okay. What is it? It's inside the Natakati. Right. I was on the plane. As I'm walking down the aisle, this guy with the beard tells me, did I tell you this? This guy with the beard tells me, oh, I admire that beard. I said, yeah, I didn't shave this morning. Anyway, okay. Tanya Ida. There's another brisa. Tar, ainly other tar. Would only know, it says the brisa, the brisa goes to pasuk a razor. It says I would only think that it's a razor. Talash, mirat, sifsif. What about those other ways of removing the hair? With the cream or picking it out? Kolshu minai, and how do you know that that's also prohibition? That's an interesting quote because the pasuk says a razor shall not pass over the head. So we quote the end of the pasuk, shall not pass over the head, and we leave out the word razor. The shall not pass over the head is referring to anything, any sort of removing the hair. Well, Kumar has a question. The Bryce has a question. If you want to tell me that it doesn't matter if it's a razor, so why do you say razor? In the end, you say it doesn't matter. So what was the point of that? Interesting answer. Because I have a prohibition of shaving the head. The Nazir is not allowed to shave his head. And I also have a mitzvah to shave the head at the right time after the 30 days. So it says the razor to tell me, not that there's the only prohibition of shaving the head is with the razor. The prohibition of shaving the head is with anything. But the mitzvah to shave the head at the end is only with the razor. But, so the shaving with the razor, it says that you're not allowed to because it wants to tell me at the end that you're obligated to with the razor.
Does the Gemara get into, I don't know which perspective, to get into where we know the corners of one's beard, or is there a discussion about that at some point?
It could be from here, but I didn't get to that yet. mean, we're going to discuss the beard actually soon, but get to all of the details in that. Okay.
Yeah.
The Gemara says maybe I could understand that you have to use a razor to shave the head at the end of the Nazirus from other sources. It says like this. To understand that you need to use a razor because the Mitzayra has to use a razor. That you can't, and the Mitzayra also has to shave. He has to shave his whole body when he becomes pure. The Nazir has to shave his head. A Mitzayra has to shave his whole body. So to learn from a Mitzayra that you have to use a razor, as we're saying, why do I need the pasuk of tar? It's coming to tell me that he has to shave his head with a razor at the end of the 30. Well, maybe I don't need that. I can. Mitzayra is the leper. It's someone with tzaras. It's called the Mitzayra. That I can't learn from Shein Dun and Kal Michamer Lahachmer. Look, the Mitzayra is more strict than the Nazir. The fact that the Mitzayra needs the razor, that wouldn't tell me that the Nazir needs the razor to shave at the end, because the Mitzayra has to shave the whole body. The Nazir only has to shave his head. Maybe the Mitzayra has to shave the whole body. It's very strict. You have to use a razor. A Nazir that only has to shave the head, maybe you can use a haircut machine, or something. How do you know it would have to be a razor just because the Mitzayra? Therefore, I need the pasuk of tar to tell me that no, by the Nazir you need to use a razor at the end.
This haircutting is 0.
Yeah.
So how can you do it without a razor?
Use the cream.
Is there any other way to do it?
The scissors very close. I don't know.
Yeah, they didn't have any sheared, like, appliances back then. There was no kosher razors. It was all razors. It was just like one big razor. French body.
Koshershavers.com. Right? Shavers that they use is because it cuts against the case. It's like a little shield that covers the three. The razor doesn't cut. Razor actually cuts it against, like a scissors, against the shield, and that's what cuts it. So, in other words, it's a two blade, not the sharpness. It's the rubbing in. It's like it's like a scissors, like the haircut machine, going back and forth. That's it. So that's where we need the word tar to teach me that you have to shave at the end with the razor. Rabbi Yomer Einet Tzarech. Rebbe says this whole thing is not necessary, and it sounds like Rebbe holds that I need the word tar to tell me that you only chayav for a tar, for a razor. The other way, like Rabbi Yonason said. It says, sounds like exactly what we're saying. That the pasuk of tar, the reason that the pasuk of tar, which means a razor, is teaching me that the whole time you don't use a razor, and afterwards you do use a razor. I thought that's what the Tanna Kama held. I think what he means is that according to Rebbe, I could use tar to teach me two things. Use tar to teach me that you don't shave, that the only prohibition of shaving is with the razor, and the whole mitzvah of shaving at the end is with the razor. I get both out of that. That's what it sounds like.
said that the whole statement that must use the
No, I'm asking that according to the Tanakama here, the first opinion, he said that the word tar is teaching me that the end haircut after the Naziris is with the razor. Even though the Nazir the whole time is not allowed to shave his head with anything, not only a razor. So I just say razor. Teach me that the end shaving is with the razor. Rebbe says no. The pasuk tar is teaching me that the end racing is with the razor. The end shaving is with the razor. That's what the Tanakama said. That the pasuk tar is telling me. He's quoting out the full pasuk.
like a different one. So this one is 6:18, the Tanakama, and then Rebbe quotes 6:5.
Oh, so he's quoting a different pasuk. Oh, okay, very good. So if it's a different pasuk, then we have it. Okay, so Rebbe says I have it from a different pasuk. So what would Rebbe do with the pasuk tar? Baksiv tar leyavar al reishay. What does he do with that pasuk? Lavar lav b'shnei lavin. It's coming to tell me that there's two prohibitions. There's two violations if he shaves. When it says lavar lav b'shnei lavin, does that mean that he gets malchus twice?
Here it talks about how part that even if you shave one hair, he gets
That's coming up soon. 1 second. Yeah, now, the way I read this was, Baksiv Tarla Yavar Reisha. I was asking, according to Rebbe, we have another pasuk that says Tarla Yavar Reisha. But really, what the commentaries here are saying is that Tarla Yavar Reisha is a question according to the Tanakama. Let me see if that's how everyone reads this. No, that's only the Rashi. Other commentaries read it the way I read it. Yeah, what they're saying is that Rebbe does not agree with Rabbi Yonasan. Rebbe holds that there's a prohibition of shaving the head not only with a razor, but even with other types of utensils or other things to shave the head. That's also prohibited. Now, so if that's the case, so why did it say tar? It says to tell me that there's two prohibitions, that you get malchus twice. In other words, according to the Tanakama, why did it say tar? Why did it say razor? If you're chayav, even if it's not a razor, why did it say razor? Tell me that at the end you have to use a razor. Rebbe says, I have another pasuk that tells me that at the end you have to use a razor. So the Gemara says, so why do you have to say tar before? That's just to tell me that I get two prohibitions. Now, you get two prohibitions if you use a razor or even if you use anything. Yeah, the commentary, the Rush says, compares it to if someone was warned, says, don't use a razor, don't pass anything over your head. So then you'll be two prohibitions. So in other words, there's one prohibition for anything over the head. There's another prohibition for the razor. If you use the razor, you get two prohibitions. That's okay. Right. That's how I'm learning it according to Rebbe.
But the other said the same thing. And the first opinion said that is to say that if he shaves his hair with a razor, he stands liable for violating both a positive and a.
And I'm saying now that it's two negatives. Two negatives. First opinion was you're right. It was a positive and a. Okay. That was you're talking about Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshe, there was a positive. Okay. Now, Amar Rav Chisda says, Lilkais, when it comes to getting Malkas, Ba'achas, even if he cuts one here, Nazir cuts one here, it's very, very strict. Imagine, especially according to Rabbi Yoshe, that says that it doesn't need to be a razor. Anything he does, he picks out one hair from his head, he's going to be chayav. Can you imagine? He pulls out one hair from his head. He can't even comb his hair. When you comb it, you're going to be pulling out. If there's a knot there, you pull out a hair. The Nazir can't comb his hair. What about in the shower? Can he? Because in the shower, hairs come out. No, the showers, the hairs come out because they're out already. They just wash them out. Probably you don't pull them out in the shower unless.
When there's rocks, there's no brushing.
Okay. Oh yeah.
They just have
They keep it in that big hat.
Yeah, but I guess I think that they use kind of like rubber bands to keep like the locks of hair stick together, and there's no brushing.
Right. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
There are the places where the interpretation is specific to Sukkot, given the reason it was just the Torah is reflecting common usage.
Yeah.
An easy way to read this passage say, oh, the most common way for people to shave would be to use a razor. But other things are included. You avoid all these issues about one mark,
Right.
positive, negative. It would be
Yeah.
simpler.
Right. I think the reason is because the razor does a certain job where the other ones don't do. Question is the Torah specific about that? It destroys the beard from or the hair all the way from the base. It's cleaner when it's a razor. The Torah says razor, it sounds like it's specific. When it's what you're referring to is it says, don't plow with an ox and a donkey together. It doesn't mean the ox and the donkey. It means any animal, right? Ah, good morning. The pasuk is referring to whatever is the normal case, right?
I was actually thinking Losi Bashu Gidi.
Oh, there's another one. It's just talking. That's a regular case. So, but that's because we don't have anything specific about that. But over here, we could say that maybe this is a specific reason, so that would be different. Yes, that's the pshat. The expression is dibra kasav b'haiva, right? Okay, so if someone even removes one here, then it's chayev. La'akev b'shtayim. When it comes to shaving the hair at the end of the tzaras, he has to cut off all the hair, and if he leaves two hairs, then that's then he's not considered that he shaved. He has an obligation to shave his whole head. And he left two hairs, he's not considered like he shaved. Remember Jekin's joke? Said it was talking about the theory of relativity. So he said 2 hairs on my head is not a lot, but 2 hairs in my soup is more than enough. They shave off everything, including the payas. Yeah. So, Listar. Now, what about interrupting the Naziris? In order to, he said that if someone drinks wine in the middle of the Naziris, it's just a prohibition. He doesn't have to start over. If someone becomes tamei in the middle of the Naziris, he has to start over. And if he shaves his head, then he also has to start over. Or possibly we had one opinion, he has to count another 7 days if it was over. If he finished it already, just then. How much of the head does he have to shave in order for this to be considered like he had to start over? So Rav Chisda says that's only if he shaves most of the head. Ubetar. And this is with the razor. The commentaries explain that when you say you get malchus for cutting one here, that's only with the razor. So remember, we were discussing before, what you pull out the hair, it's going to be, you take a shower or you brush it, it's going to be a prohibition. No, you only get malchus if you cut the hair with the razor, cut one hair with the razor, but not if you take it out in other ways.
Can we explain why a Nazir has wine that doesn't have to be counted?
No,
He just gets one.
just that's just what he said. Tanya Nami Hachi. I'm sorry, no, I jumped over here. It's only with the razor. But we have a brisa that says, how do you know anything else is also a prohibition? And back to where we started. That it doesn't, what we mean by a razor is anything that does the action of a razor, anything similar to a razor. So there really would be a prohibition to pick out the hair, because that would be pulling it out from the base as well. Tanya Nami Hachi, we have a brisa that says like this: Nazir shetala shemer tzivs kolshu in a seisel abrei v'reisha yubitar. Now something's funny about this. Chayev, you have to add in. Chayev. If he shaves, pulls it out, or he uses the depilatory, he's chayev. But if he wants to, but if you're gonna have to restart, for that you have to be a razor and also most of the head. So in other words, it's not exactly the same. For the prohibition, it's anything, but to restart, it has to be with a razor. It has to be most of the head.
Excuse me, the three items, are those three specific, but not any others?
I'm not
When we
sure
learn
about
the
that.
Tato Claus things, like nowadays, people have laser hearing. So if you laser instead of razor,
Right.
would that also be prohibited to the Nazir?
It sounds like this is the machlekes, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yonasan, where Rabbi Yossi would say yes. Anyway, the tar wasn't specific, but at the final haircut, you would have to use a razor, not a laser. Right.
Well, no.
Razor to
No,
the
sir.
razor to the laser.
They want to say that the guy's name is Laser.
No,
And
no.
he's not allowed to use the razor.
Laser, Nazir.
There's no razor after.
Laser volt.
Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Aimer. Mishum Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda says the name of Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon is usually Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda sounds like the son of Reb Yehuda Rabbi Lai. Possibly. He says, Kashem shtei saris makbis by kach shtei saris seisus by. He says, when it comes to the actual shaving at the head, shaving of the head at the end of the Naziris, you can't leave 2 hairs. If you leave 2 hairs, then you didn't fulfill that. So if 2 hairs really make such a difference, then if you cut 2 hairs in middle of the Naziris, then that's enough that you'd have to start over, which is not what Rav Chisda told us. Rav Chisda said, you only have to start over if you cut the majority of the head. 2 hairs, that was only if you left 2 hairs remaining and you didn't cut them. Okay, Tanan Hassam, learned in the Mishnah, says, Shleishim megalchem et taglachtan mitzvah. 3 people that have to shave their head. The shaving of the head is a mitzvah. Nazir, Mitzayro, Leviyim. You hear this? The Nazir, when he's finished in his ears, he has to shave. That's number 1. The Mitzayro, when he becomes pure, he has to shave his whole body. And the Leviyim had to shave their whole body when, at the beginning, right when they were in by the inauguration of the Leviyim, when they were becoming, they were starting their work in the temple, in the Mishkan. The kulan shegilchu shlei betar, and all of them that shaved, but they didn't use a razor, shashir shtei sharis, or they left over shtei saris, 2 hairs, le'asav le'klam, and they didn't do anything. Okay. So it has to be a razor. Now it's possible that the Gemara is going to come in and say when it says a razor, it means anything that's like a razor, doesn't maybe. Amar Mar, master taught, and we're going to re-examine this Mishnah. says like this: Shleish megalchem et teglachten mitzvah. There's 3 people that have to shave, and the shaving is a mitzvah. Pshita, isn't that obvious?
This is a whole new variation of.
Another, right. Another Mitzvah and a Levi walked in to the barber shop.
Odlo Gala.
Sorry,
They have a bar,
it's a barber shop.
Well said.
So, Gemara says Pshita. Of course, it says in the Torah. Well, Mao detema mishum avuri sarhu vafilu sach nasa mashmalan delay. Now over here we changed the name for the military. It's called Sach Nasa. If he smears on Nasa, what was the name of the company?
Neat.
Near or Neat.
Oh,
Anyway, here it's Nisa.
no, near.
Here it's Nisa.
Something.
It's not the company, but it's the cream that's he smears on this cream. So I would say that the same thing would apply. Mashmalan that doesn't work. These people need to shave their head with the razor, not with the cream.
Here, in the background, I mentioned that some of these were strong enough to prevent hair from ever growing back.
Oh really?
They don't do that today because they will go out of business.
Uh-huh.
It's funny.
Yeah,
The laser removal.
Wow.
No,
Tani.
no, electrolysis is not, they try to, because of the root, but the lasers actually. Guys who have perfectly curved beards, and they just like trimming it like. I mean, I know one who had the whole neck laser, and here laser, so his beard always grows in perfect.
Sounds good.
So yeah,
what if you change your mind? You want hair or whatever?
forget it. Some things you
Like, you
can't
can't go
change your
back.
mind.
Yeah.
What if you went on the guillotine?
They have the makeup they do. Sometimes the ladies get this makeup that they
Tattoo.
choose makeup, and then it could be later on they don't want it. Okay, so Katani v'kulan shegilchu shalei betar. We
I'm learning a lot here today. I never knew about this.
yeah they have.
Yeah, those, the ladies who tattoo like eyebrow, mascara, actually, remove little thing, that the color changes after many years. You have to go back and have it like redone just because of the color.
I also feel like hair too.
Uh-huh.
Like little curl that has no
Oh,
on the
yeah,
forehead.
I like
Yeah.
that. You know, the teardrops, you ever see that tattoo on people?
No.
You know what that means?
No.
That they kill someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if they shot. Everyone they killed. Like, they used to do notches in the
Notches,
belt
yeah.
in the West. When you see these people come out of jail and they have tattoos, you know what they were in jail for. They have
Okay, so what did we say over here? Kulan shegilchu shalei betar. We learned that if they shave without a razor, that it doesn't work. It's considered like nothing. Bishleim Gabi Nazir. Now we're saying, where are you getting this from? That you need to use a razor to do that mitzvah of the cutting the hair. When it comes to a Nazir ksiv tar la yavar al reisha, and we learned before that it's referring to, according to the Tanakama, and when it says that you shouldn't pass a razor over the head, that was teaching us that the razor wasn't necessarily a razor. That was the prohibition. The whole point of saying the razor was for the mitzvah at the end, that you needed to use a razor. Okay, so we have the source that you need to use a razor at the end. When it comes to the Levium, it says that you should pass the razor over all their body. But how do we know that a mitzvah needs to use a razor? Now here, the commentaries point out that this is a little bit odd, because when we asked before, why do I need the pasuk of tar, a razor, by the Nazir to teach me that at the end he needs to shave with the razor? Maybe I could learn it from a Mitzvah. And it says, no, you can't learn it from a Mitzvah because a Mitzvah is much stricter. He has to shave the whole body. Now in our Gemara, we say, I know that a Nazir needs to use a razor. It says in the pasuk tar, but we didn't learn from Mitzvah, right? Yeah. I know that a Levi needs to use a razor. It says in the pasuk tar. But where do you know a Mitzvah needs a? It doesn't say in the pasuk tar. So the Gemara before is like funny. I could have learned from Mitzvah, but now we're saying a Mitzvah doesn't even have a source. I could have learned from Mitzvah. There's no source for it by the Mitzvah. Anyway,
That shaves the whole body. Is that a positive?
that's an obligation. He's supposed to, when he's becoming pure, he's supposed to shave the body.
There's I think prohibitions are abundant of shaving like blonde.
Yeah, that would be if there wasn't necessary. If it was just it was be because not to dress like a woman or something.
By the way, turns out that's only one of the reasons. They also do tattoos just to show they were in jail. Sometimes what happened to them in jail, and sometimes to show like they were subjugated to something. So in memory of something. So this really is. I said it was only.
What are the shoes over the over the telephone wires? What does that mean? You're talking about all
That
that.
used to be a thing in, when you grew up, when you outgrew your cons, you went outside and you threw them up on the telephone
But
poles.
in the streets of the community, like there's like more of the house. So you tell big people know about the house because it has the shoes outside.
What is the house?
The kids
The
would do
house,
that, and then they
not
get a
good
new
stuff.
pair of sneakers.
Okay. The Virutar, it says, where do we know that a Mitzvah uses a razor? Maybe we can learn from the Levium. Levium, both of them need to shave the whole body. Learn from the Levium, it has to be a razor. You can ask, when the Levium needed to shave, their body needed to wave the Levium. They have to lift up each Levi and wave him like you shake a lulav. And by the inauguration, when they're at the very beginning, this is when Kairach his wife was saying, look, they shaved your whole body, they shaved you, look what you look like, they're making a fool out of you. But that was, at that time, they needed to shave, the Levium needed to shave their whole body. So we'll say, okay, so a Levi needs to use a razor. So therefore the Mitzvah also? No, the Levi has these special halachas where they have to wave him also. Same Mitzvah delight. By the Mitzvah, they didn't have to do that. So how could you learn from the Levi that you need to use a razor, that also by the Mitzvah you need a razor? We'll learn from the Nazir. The Nazir, of course, doesn't need to be waved. Mal Nazir king kabanitain lechem tamer b'mitzvah delay. What about the Nazir? His karban needs to have bread that comes along with it. So we found the stringency by the Nazir that doesn't apply to the Mitzvah. That would tell me that maybe the halachas of the Nazir also don't apply to Mitzvah. The Mitzvah needs to use the Nazir needs to use a razor. How do you know the Mitzvah does? It's totally different. From one of them, we're not going to be able to learn. But since we have three things here, two of them we know clearly need a razor. We'll be able to get the third one in like this. We'll learn from the two of them. Mihai Tesi, from which will we learn? That's a funny way of asking this because we know which two. Well, Tesi Levium, we'll learn first from the Levium. The Mal Levium Shekain Tunim Tenufa Begufam. You're going to ask that the Levium, 1 second, the Levium need to be waved. You can't learn from the Levium that you should have to use a razor. We'll say, well, Nazir Yechiach. Well, Nazir will tell me that that's not the main point. You see, the way the Gemara is working is like this. What is the critical factor that causes that you have to use a razor? So by the Levium, maybe the critical factor is that that they have to be waved. Anyone that has to be waved needs to use a razor. But by a Mitzvah that doesn't need to be waved, doesn't need a razor. We say 1 second. But by them, only the carbon is waved, but not the person himself. By Levium, it's the person himself. Yeah, very good. but we'll say that it can't, the critical factor can't be that it's waived, because the Nazir has to use a razor and he's not waived. So that's not the point that causes the waving. It's not that causes the razor. It's not the waving that causes it, because we see by the Nazir is not. But you say 1 second, Mal Nazir can kabanaton lechem. But maybe the reason why the Nazir is because of the bread that he brings. It says, well, Levium yechichu, but the Levium don't have to bring bread, so that can't be the critical factor that causes the razor. So v'chazar adin, and this will revolve. The logic over here will revolve. We'll go from Nazir to Levium, Nazir to Levium. We'll keep going around. But Leiri Zechariah, each one has a different strength. Leiri Zechariah, the strength of this is not like that. However, it's at a shavash shebehem, but the common denominator, the common factor of both of those, they both need a haircut, shave, the taglach mitzar, and the shaving is with the razor. So therefore, I'll be able to include also the mitzayra that also needs to use a razor. That's where the source of that Mishnah that says 3 people need to be shaved and that you need to use a razor. I have 2 of them in the psukim, and one of them is learned from what's called the tzad hashava. The common factor between the other 2 includes also the mitzayra. Amalei Rava mibarnish l'Ravashi. Rava mibarnish says to Ravashi, when you have a tzad hashava, tzad hashava means a common factor between the 2, common denominator between these 2. Mala tzad hashava shabem shekain ein karbani bedalas. Heimer b'mitzayra shekarbani bedalas. Mitzayra has a very special carbon that if the person is wealthy, he has to bring an animal. If he's poor, he brings, does he bring flour or does he bring birds? He brings birds if he's poor. He brings birds. So what are you telling me? That you can learn the Mitzayra from the others, just like they're strict that there has to be a razor also by the Mitzayra. The Mitzayra has a leniency that the others don't have, that there's a special sacrifice if the person is in a different tax bracket. Right? So Amar le Rava bar Mishashia le Rava. Rava bar Mishashia says to Rava, not bar Mishashia. Haitana mi kara Amar lamdim mitzeri afsher shein dan in kalv michamar lahachmer alav b'adar menelef medina nami layalef. Was the question that I mentioned before. It's a little bit strange over here, because originally we wanted to learn from Mitzayra that you need to use a razor. We said we can't learn from a Mitzayra because the Mitzayra is more strict. Mitzayra has to shave the whole body. So therefore we need the pasuk of Tar to tell me that the Nazir needs to use a razor. No, I can't learn from Mitzayra. And now we end up learning from the Mitzayra from Nazir. And in the end, Medina Nanmi Layalef, you can't even learn out the Mitzayra because of the question that it's not similar, because the Mitzayra has a special sacrifice. Amalei, so Rava responds, that there's actually machlokes here, and we could figure this out based on the different opinions here. The Tanan, we have a Mishnah. Now we get into, this is either a discussion of cutting the payas, or it's talking about cutting the beard. The beard. Okay.
I understand that it's like for purification purposes of the shape, but for the Nazir, it is for purification because so he was pure while he was Nazir.
Right. Right. But I guess by the Nazir was he grows his hair for Hashem, then he cuts it off. It's over. And he burns it. Right? It's not for purification. Yeah. Yeah. You're asking that how could you learn one from the other if it's different? Well, so yeah, but that difference is I know that there's a razor required for the Nazir and for the Levi. The Mitzvah is the one that I didn't know. So if you can tell me that but the Mitzvah is for purification, well, so what? The Levi maybe also was for purification. Well, I don't know exactly.
It's from where I'm understanding that those are for purification, but the Nazir, like I understand that it's not for purification, because he was pure during the process.
But I don't know that the Levi needs it for purification. It's a part of his inauguration.
The pasuk you quoted, that the ship wasn't that the one who the razor in the woods?
Yeah, but that razor was not to use a razor. Now we're saying that to use it, but the Gemara learned from that it tells me that you need a razor to shave at the end. Because we said that you're not allowed to shave with anything, even not a razor. What does it say, razor? To teach me that the end shaving is with the razor. Okay. Now we talk about the beard. The Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. He's only going to be chayav if he shaves his whole face, if he uses a razor. There's two sources of what this Mishnah is referring to. It's talking about the beard, or it's talking about Taisvis learns that we're talking about the beard, and the Rashi commentary learns that it's talking about the payas, corners of the beard. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer says, I feel licked chayiv. Even if he, so the first Tana says that you only chayiv by shaving the beard if you use a razor. Rabbi Eliezer says he's chayiv even if he uses a tweezer or a plane. A plane is the instrument that shaves the wood.
Well, it's got a razor. That's what.
And there is a razor
It's
on it,
razor with a
but I think it doesn't. I thought it was sort of like a cheese cutter or something. Like it only
Yeah, it's
goes at a certain
protected
slice.
razor at a
It's a
certain
protected
angle,
razor,
so that,
right?
yeah, show me that my wife uses. My wife uses old new. Depends what you.
They use it like when the door doesn't close anymore. They cut it down a little bit because it's tilts.
It's called a safety razor.
Uh-huh.
No, a safety razor
Comes
is the
in between.
metal thing that pushes out the flat blade razor and it pushes it back in. That's
Oh,
what
I
it's
thought it meant it was between two pieces of plastic or metal.
Yeah, but that's not what a plane is. Plane is like a block of wood. It has a slice in it coming from down usually 45 degrees, 60, whatever. And then in it is a razor blade, and then you have like a screw bolt kind of that holds it. And like the rabbi said, let's shave the door a little.
The effect is the same as using a razor.
Because it
The
is a
plain
razor. It's
Just
just
the
you're not
razor,
gonna
my
hold
point
it.
is the razor contacts directly with the skin. It's like in a plane, the blade
Yeah.
contacts directly with
Yeah.
the wood.
Yeah, so that's it. You're asking a good question. And what's the difference? Why do I have to say tar and a rehitni is the plane, right? Malakat is a tweezer. Why do I have to say the rehitni? I mean, it's basically just a razor, another razor, just with the handle on it, right? Okay, I don't know. So, but Rabbi Eliezer says that Yechayev with the tweezer as well. Malakat is a tweezer. Is that how they translate that?
Yes.
This
So-
really has been working.
This is Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes. He says Chayev. Tanakama holds it needs to be a razor to be Chayev for shaving. That was in this yeshiva. It was yeshiva for guys that sort of like dropped out. So
Oh, in Yerushalayim?
no, it wasn't Yerushalayim. It was anyway. It was a Lubavitch yeshiva. Anyway,
Oh.
but
Chinuch Leno.
no, not about Shuva. The other way.
Okay, never mind.
About
no
Shuva
more.
is they're on their way in. This is on the way out. It's catching them before they fall. So there was a bacher there that was shaving with the razor. They forgot to tell him that if you're going to shave, he was Lubavitch Rabban. They said you're not allowed to shave. They didn't tell him that if you shave, you use an electric shaver. They forgot to tell him that. And there was another bacher that had an electric shaver. So the teachers there thought that the one that was shaving with the electric shaver, he shouldn't be shaving. He should let his beard grow. He should. So they took the shaver away from him and they gave it to the guy that was shaving with the razor. He confiscated it.
Everything's relative.
Okay. So my time out there, Rabbanon. What's the reason why the rabbis say, now we're going back to, we're saying now is that the Mitzayra, according to the Rabbanon, needs a razor. Now, the source for that is because the only time of when it says to cut the hair, to shave the beard, it's a razor. Anything else is permissible. So it must be that when the Mitzayra has to cut his hair, it must be with the razor. According to Rabbi Lezer, that says that no, the prohibition of cutting the beard is on everything. So that according to him, I actually don't know that the Mitzayra has to use a razor. I have to learn it from other sources. So my time with the Rabbanan, what's the source that the Rabbanan, for the Rabbanan that the Mitzayra needs the razor? The Tanya says in the pasuk Zakanai. Comes, he has to cut. This it says by the Mitzayra. It says that he has to cut all the hair on his body, and it says also, what's the pasuk? I don't have the pasuk in my thing. Do you have the pasuk? My time with the Rabbanan. He should shave all the hair of his head and his beard. Okay, that's talking about the Mitzayra. So, why does it have to say and his beard? It says all the hair. Because I have another pasuk that says that you're not supposed to cut the beard. And I could have thought that maybe the Mitzayra is not allowed to cut the beard either. So we have to say that he's allowed to cut the beard. That's to say clearly. I could have thought maybe he cuts all the hair on his body except for the beard, because the beard is a prohibition. He's not allowed to cut the beard. So it says no, he has to cut the beard as well. Now, why does it have to tell me that he has to cut the beard? If the prohibition of cutting the beard is only with the razor, then we understand why he has to say. But in the Mitzayra, has to cut all the hair with the razor. Then we understand why it has to say that he's allowed to cut the beard.
Do we say that it was just prohibited to shave with a razor, or were other things that were like a razor?
But right here, it's a machlekes regarding the beard. There's a machlekes between Tanakam and Rabbi Eliezer.
But what if not just the beard? I'm talking about like the head or other parts of the body.
Oh, by the Nazir?
Yeah.
So that was also a machlekes. That was a machlekes Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yeshia. Yeah. Okay. So, if you're ever taking a test on anything in smicha or something, just say it's a machlekes. You're usually right.
Well, the thing is multiple choice. It says like, is it this or machlokes?
Same answer. A machlekes you'll usually get.
Kind of like on the essay, so circle C. That's usually.
So, Minalan de Batar. How do you know that it's talking about a razor? So it says the Tanya, we have a brisa. They're not supposed to shave the beard. Maybe if he uses the scissors, he's going to be chayiv. It says you can't destroy, and this is not considered destroying; it's just trimming. Maybe if he uses a plane or a tweezer, he's going to be chayiv. It's only with if he shaves. What type of shaving is also destroying? Have you ever said tar? That's if he uses a razor.
Now I understand that you're only razor compliance acts of both shaving and destroying.
Right. So it cuts it down. It destroys it from the root, from at the root, not the root, but at the root. So the shaving is the razor cuts it so close that it covers both of the verses. You shall not destroy the beard and you shall not shave the beard. Well, what we're learning now is that from the word zakanai, that the Mitzvah has to cut his beard, that teaches me that the Mitzvah needs to use a razor. Why? Because if I didn't need to use a razor, then I wouldn't need a pasuk to tell me that he's allowed to cut the beard. I have a special pasuk that says that he's allowed to cut the beard. Since the whole problem of cutting the beard is only with the razor, and if the Mitzvah was allowed to use something else to get rid of his hair, then I wouldn't need a pasuk to tell me that he was allowed to do it, because he's allowed to do it anyway. He's not using the razor. It must be that the Mitzvah has to use the razor, and that's the Kanai teaches me that he has to use the razor, which really would have been a prohibition. The Kanai tells me that he has to do it anyway. That it's doicha, the mitzvah of shaving, the Mitzvah shaving is doicha, the prohibition, pushes off the prohibition of not shaving the beard. Yeah. Commentaries here, in some of the commentaries, they say we're dealing with a kohen, and the pasuk says that a kohen is not allowed to shave. But anyway, I think that we understand that it's referring to everyone.
But then we said previously, Cohen couldn't shave because the hairs had the one had to reach the other.
That was just the name, the haircut that he needed. The Kohen Gadol had a special haircut.
I thought that if he would shave, if he had shaven with a razor, that haircut couldn't possibly apply because we just cut each one of the roots.
I don't know if that was market, if that was a special haircut that he had, but I don't know if it was market. Okay. Mimai, the Gemara says, how do you know that this is really the pshat? Maybe the Mitzvah doesn't need to use a razor, maybe it can use anything. It can use the plane, it can use a tweezer. And it's just telling me that if he's going to use a shaver, he's not going to be chayav. And I'm sorry, if he's going to use a razor, he's not going to be chayav. How do you know that it's telling me that he really needs the razor? Must as well. Amri, if you would say that he can use a tweezer or a plane to get rid of the hair, why does the pasuk have to say the beard? And I would have understood like this. By a nazir, so not so clear what this means. If he uses a razor, how do they translate it by you? I have like different commentaries here. That the Nazir is doing a prohibition. Just as with regard to a Nazirite who performs a transgression by shaving his hair during his Naziriteship, and who even so is deemed liable for removing hair without the use of a razor. Who held that? I guess Rabbi Yoshia. Here too, in the case of a leper where he is shaving for a mitzvah, does it not follow all the more so that he should be permitted to shave with any implement?
When I think of shaving, I think of the razor. I don't think the scissor would consider it kind of trim.
Right. Right. That's sort of the discussion. Is it permissible to use the scissors or something for the Mitzvah that has to cut all his hair? So we're saying that, well, we learned from the beard that since we need a special pasuk to tell me that he's allowed to cut the beard, it must be that he's using a razor, else I wouldn't need a special pasuk because he wouldn't be allowed to trim the beard anyway. That's well, at least according to the Tanna Kama. Now the Gemara is saying that if the Mitzvah was really allowed to use another instrument to cut all his hair, then I would have said like this: let the pasuk not say the beard, and I would have said that by a Nazir, he's chayav if he uses any instrument. Hacha, the mitzvah over here, where it's an obligation to cut, like Kolshkin, for sure he should be allowed to use anything, even with, I wouldn't have known a razor. But now the Gemara goes on. The Su and more. If I would say that if you're fulfilling the mitzvah of cutting the hair, the mitzvah has to cut all this yet. Then, if they would be fulfilling the mitzvah by not using, even when he doesn't use the razor, even when he uses another instrument, mid like sivtar to Reish Lakish, I would have thought like Reish Lakish said. Just like this. You can't tell me that you're allowed to do it with another instrument, but it's nevertheless okay if you use a tar, if you use a razor, because Reish Lakish says that when do I say that a positive command pushes off a negative command? That's only if I'm not able to fulfill them both. But if I am able to fulfill them both, then I say that the negative command does not push off the positive command. So in this instance as well, I have a negative command not to shave the beard with the razor. I have a positive command to shave the mitzvah. If I'm able to shave the mitzvah without a razor, then I would have to do that. And I wouldn't say that 1 second you have a positive command to shave the mitzvah, therefore you should be allowed to push off the negative command and cut off his beard. 1 second. I don't have to violate the do not cut off the beard, because I can use another instrument that will be that won't violate that. So it must be that the mitzvah has to shave his whole body with an instrument, a razor, that would actually be a prohibition, if not that for the mitzvah of mitzvah. Okay, now we go. That was the opinion of the Rabbanan that teach us that you need to use a razor for the mitzvah, and also when it comes to shaving the beard, it's only a razor. That's where they have that. Okay, Rabbi Lezer, my time. What's the reason for Rabbi Lezer that he says that a mitzvah needs to use a razor? According to Rabbi Lezer, shaving the beard is even other instruments. Why by the mitzvah does it have to be a razor? It says Yalaf Mireishay. Use the pasuk of Mireishay. It says that he has to shave his head. Tanya, started in a brisa. Reishay says the head. Matamad Laima. Why does it have to say that? Because by the Nazir it says Tar Le'Yabral Reishay. It says that a razor is not allowed to go over the Nazir's head. Yachalaf Nazir Mitzayra. Okay. Also, let's say the Mitzayra was also a Nazir. Would he be allowed to shave his head? He's not allowed to put a shaver. It says Tamalay Reishay. He is allowed to. How do you know? Maybe when the mitzvah is shaving, maybe he doesn't need to use a razor, and he'll be able to get away with the shaving of the head, the shaving of the body with another instrument, and he won't violate the prohibition of the Nazir, which is only if it's a razor. Let's say, so why does it say a razor? It says razor by the Nazir. Here we're learning that Rebbe Lezer holds like Rabbi Yonasan, that says that the Nazir's only prohibition is with the razor. Not like Rabbi Yeshua that says the Nazir had a prohibition with any instrument. Remember that right at the beginning of what we learned, that there was a machlekes Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Yonasan, if the prohibition of the Nazir cutting his hair applies to all instruments or just to the razor. Because Rabbi Yeshua said that it was all instruments, and Rabbi Yonasan says only the razor. So here we're talking about Rabbi Eliezer that says that the mitzvah needs a razor, but the shaving of the beard applies to everything. But for some reason, by the Nazir, he holds that it's only the razor. Anyway.
They're allowed to
Lighten the hair.
And that's done
With the razor. No, actually, it says with the razor. It says that he lightens it with the razor, but it doesn't mean against the skin. It's just he uses a razor to lighten it. Yeah.
So, someone with leprosy, they have to shave with a razor. Is that like an Nazir can't?
You're right. And Nazir is prohibited from using a razor, but nevertheless, we learn from Raishai that he's allowed to. because he's a Mitzayra. And he has to shave his body during the purification process, even though he's in the middle of his tzaras. But he's going to use a razor. I think the Gemara goes like this. Chitei matar. Maybe he's going to use a razor. Sorry. Maybe there's a different version over here. See how I was following the rush this morning. Let me see how yours says it. The chitema. That's how I had it. The chitema. And if you will say tar lamali, why do I need the verse of a razor? I guess I could use the pasuk of Raishai that teaches me. The chitema tar lamali. And it says Lameimra dafilu b'tar, saying that you could also use a razor. You don't have to use a razor. Why? It could have thought like this. Since by a Nazir, he uses a razor in middle of his Nazirus he's chayiv. So by the Mitzayra, that's also a Nazir. He should also be chayiv. The Mashmalan, that he's not chayiv. That's why we have the pasuk of now it's saying. That's why I have the pasuk of tar, I guess. Now Isal Kadaitach, Yavan Malakad Rekni Mitzvah Kavid Midlike Siv Tar Kresh Lakish. Gemara throws in that question that we had before, that if you would say that you don't really need the razor, the Mitzayra can shave his body with other instruments. If that's the case, then I would have said like Rish Lakish that he's not allowed to use the razor, because I would have said that the positive command doesn't push off the negative command. Okay. According to Rabbi Lezer, we needed the pasuk of Reishai to teach me that a Nazir, that's also a Mitzayra, shaves his head. But according to the Rabbanan, that know that a Mitzayra uses a razor from Lo Yigalechu, because it says a Kanei that Mitzayra shaves his beard. So what do we need Reishai? It's coming to tell me that you push off the prohibition of cutting off the payas. The Tanya, you have a brisa. You should not cut all around the head. Yachalaf Mitzayra came. Maybe the Mitzayra also is not allowed to cut the payas. It says the head. I know already if he's allowed to cut the beard, he should be allowed to cut the payas. The Tanya, why do we need both? That he's allowed to cut the beard, that he's allowed to cut the payas. Tzrichi, necessary. Because of Rahman is a kanev like Reishai, it would only say that he can cut the beard. It didn't say that he can cut the head, the surrounding all around. Could have thought like this: that when is there a prohibition to cut the payas? That's only if you cut the payas, but you leave other hair. But if you cut all the hair equally, then say that's not really cutting the payas, because you cut everything equally. That's why it says Reishai to tell me that really there is a prohibition to cut the whole head, including the payas. But by a Mitzayra, he has to do it anyway, even though that would normally be a prohibition.
That's because he has to.
And because of that, say Deicheles. Because of Reishai, because of Zakanai. And if it would say just the head that he's allowed to cut, it wouldn't say that he's allowed to cut the beard. You want to say that maybe you should understand from that you should be allowed to cut the beard anyway. Hava mina mashma tarti. The Asiyah Sevidachias likes to say that I'm learning two things. First of all, that an asay pushes off a lace asay. That's why it says zakanai, that he's allowed to cut the beard. I'm sorry, if it didn't say zakanai, if it would have just said reishai, that he's allowed to cut the payas. Umashma da kafas kol reishmei akafa, but kati betar minalan, but I still wouldn't know that he has to use a razor. Because Rahman is zakanai, that's why it has to tell me zakanai that tells me that he has to use a razor. The Mitzvah has to use the razor to cut his hair because it's only the beard that has the problem of specifically the razor. Rabbi Lezer according to Rabbi Lezer, that he uses Reishai to teach me something else. He uses Reishai to teach me that the Mitzvah uses a razor. So how does he know? How does he know that a positive pushes off a negative? Yalef Migadilim, he learns it from Tzitzis. The Tanya, it says in the Braisa, the silber shatness, you shouldn't wear wool and linen together. Hagadilim taslach mehem, but you are allowed to make tzitzis from shatness. It means the wool strings could go on a linen garment. Even not for a coin. Even not for a coin.
We can wear.
Yeah, if you would have.
But the Rabbanan say no, just because if it gets busted, you be stuck with.
No, we have a problem because we don't have the tchelas. It was only with tchelas.
I think mine's just.
Tchelas.
Oh, I thought
No.
it was in the event you had linen and wrote tzitzis, and the tzitzis became busted, all of a sudden you'd be stuck with over shatnez.
I don't know if it says that. I'm not sure. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Okay, so let me tell you the latest movie, which I don't recommend anybody to see.
Thank you.